Hello everybody, this is Graeme and today I'm going to be looking at 7 summits. In this game you represent a team of mountain climbers racing to climb the tallest mountains in the 7 continents. You're going to be increasing your skills and getting equipment to try and help you reach the summit the fastest. The main mechanisms in this game are dice drafting and push your luck. On your turn you can draft one of the rolled dice where each die is color coded to a certain mountain, then decide if you want to push your luck by re-rolling that die. But if you do, you must also roll the risk die. Now I'm often on the lookout for enjoyable quick games. I don't mind a bit of push your luck in games, so I was interested in getting this one to the table. Did the gameplay reach the epic heights, or is this game stuck at base camp? Let's get it to the table, see how it's played, and I'll come back for my final thoughts on 7 summits.
So here are 7 summits set up for 4 players. The goal of the game is to race against the other players to reach the summits of the 7 great mountains of the world. As soon as at least one player has reached the top of all 7 summits, the game is over. The equipment cards are placed off to one side, then randomly place the discovery tokens face down on their spots. Each player has a player board and markers of their color in front of them. They'll take one of each of their meeples and place it at the base of each mountain. Shuffle the mission cards and give one to each player. These mission cards represent additional ways to score points at the end of the game. They're kept secret from the other players and will be things like have the most equipment cards or reach the summit of one of the mountains. If any equipment cards or mission cards refer to a plateau, that is the line that runs through the middle of the mountains. The youngest player goes first and is given the first player marker. The first player will roll all the dice, and each die color matches a particular color mountain and is placed at the bottom of that mountain. In a 4-player game, a round is when each player is done selecting one die and moving one of their meeples. At the end of the round, the first player marker is passed to the left. On your turn, you're going to select one of the dice at the bottom of the mountain and move your meeple up either the matching mountain or move your meeple up on the Everest, as Everest itself does not have a die. Once you have moved your meeple, you can stop, or you can push your luck and try and push further up the mountain. To push your luck, you'll take the die you just used and re-roll it along with one of the risk dice. The risk die will have either you succeed and you move up the mountain that many spaces that you rolled, and you can decide if you want to stop or push your luck again. But if you roll a 1 or a 2, you'll subtract that from what you rolled on the d4 and move that many spaces. Yes, that can mean that you move backwards. Your turn is then over if you roll the 1 or the 2. If you roll the avalanche, your meeple is moved all the way to the bottom of the mountain and your turn is over. If you try and push your luck on Everest, the same process occurs, but you'll roll both risk dice plus the d4 and take the worst result from the risk dice and apply that. Once you have finished moving, you will check to see if you've landed on a discovery token or a skill spot. If you ended up on the discovery token, reveal and action it, then remove it from the board, but keep it in front of you. If you ended up on a skill spot, move the matching marker up one spot on your player board and claim the appropriate bonus. If you ended up on the same spot as another player's meeple, both players move their teamwork skill marker up one spot and activate the bonus there. Any skills that you unlock that give you an ongoing ability, like a plus or minus 1 to the die roll, are always optional to use. To reach the summit of a mountain, you must use a die with the exact number of spaces on it. You cannot overshoot. If you take a die that would cause your meeple to overshoot, you do not move your meeple, but you can still try and press your luck to see if you can reach the summit that way. Equipment cards are gained through some discovery tiles and some skills when they unlock. They are kept face down in front of you until they are used. When they're used, they're discarded. You can use an equipment card either before or after you've climbed. The game is over when there is at least one meeple at the summit of each mountain. Then you finish the round and go to final scoring. You add up the points for the mountains you have summited, the mission cards you have successfully achieved, and finally any points from discovery tokens. The player with the most points is the winner. Let's get back to see what I thought about 7 summits.
So, theme and components. The theme in this one was fun and it works well in the sense of the game. Now, I personally have never been mountain climbing, but it's often portrayed on screen as, oh, do we push on or you stay here until tomorrow? And I think the push your luck elements of the game kind of represents that struggle. As for the components, I really like the art on the game box and on the main board itself. I thought the equipment cards were also nicely done. The mission cards are a bit bland, but that's okay, they give you the information that you need. The player boards again were fine and a bit bland, as were the skill trackers, and I'm worried about bending those skill trackers. But so far, they've held up through repeated plays. So on to the gameplay. It's pretty basic. I mean, the dice are rolled and you're going to be picking one. Of course, you're going to be picking the one at the highest value early on in the game. and maybe later on you're going to be picking based on the mountain you're really focusing on, or one of the mountains you're really focusing on. That part is pretty straightforward. The skill and discovery spots may be part of your decision, but generally I found it's better just to get up the mountain as soon as possible. That's where you're going to be scoring a lot of your points. Now, the mission cards can give you a few points, 3 or 4, and hopefully you get ones that work with climbing the mountain, because things like getting 1 point for every 2 discovery tokens can get you a few points, but you could potentially be giving up points at the summit of the mountain. So I found the dice drafting piece of the game pretty straightforward. There kind of always seemed to be a best option on your turn, and you didn't have a huge number of choices. Now you can get multiple mission cards, 1 to 3, and that could change up the decisions you make, but I found you kind of saw the dice, you knew which one to take. So what about the push your luck piece of the game? Well, again, this one seemed to be used a lot more at the beginning of the game, and not so much near the end of the game. You have a 50% chance of getting the good face on that risk die, the side that allows you to climb. But then again, a 30-something% chance of losing spaces and about a 15% chance of going all the way back to the start. When you're taking the first few steps of the mountain, sure, why not push your luck? You don't have very much to lose. But if I'm 2 steps away from the summit and the other players are right at my heels, am I really going to risk it? Now, nobody I played with was willing to push their luck the higher up the mountain that they went. I almost wish that the avalanche would push you back to the plateau instead of all the way to the bottom of the mountain, because potentially losing 6 or 7 steps on a mountain on one roll put an awful lot of players off from taking that risk. Now, the game plays 2 to 5 players, and I did find that the game worked differently between the 2 and 3 and the 4 and 5 players. At 2 to 3 players, you're drafting 2 dice in a round. In the 4 and 5 that I showed you during the walkthrough, you're only going to be drafting 1. I found at the lower player counts, players were much more willing to push their luck, especially on that second die, or more willing to hate draft a die. In the higher player counts, you tended to take the die that you needed most, and there's less hate drafting. That's where you're going to be taking a die just to keep it away from another player. So, would I recommend this game? I think in the end, I am not. I like the art in the game, and I like the idea of the push your luck in this game. I did like the equipment cards and skills you could acquire, as they did give you some abilities that you could change up your turn from round to round. But I found the main idea of push your luck didn't last through the entire game. Near the end, no one was really willing to risk a bunch of points and falling all the way back to the bottom, especially if they are first and second place. The more you had to lose, the more people avoided the push your luck, and just worked on hopefully getting the right die at the right time, or by using skills and equipment cards to help them reach the summit. And if the push your luck element is diminished, then you're left with a very basic dice drafting, which I found rather uninteresting. Now, my negatives may be because I played this game with a bunch of hobby board gamers, and it may work more in a more casual environment. But overall, I'm going to give this game a 5.5 out of 10. It's not a bad game. I think that there are a few tweaks I would enjoy it more, but I think with those tweaks, then you're going to move that game away from its target audience. Ultimately, I felt the game relies on the push your luck aspect of the gameplay that, for the groups I played with, diminished in importance the further the game went along. So at the end, you're left with just a basic dice drafting game with some equipments and skills that most players were not as interested in. But that's it for the moment. Until next time, thanks for watching.